In the King of Fighters 14 review I did last year, which no one saw apparently, I jokingly referred to the game as King of Fanservice because of the amount of added fanservice it had over its predecessor. Apparently I wasn't too far off with that statement because SNK actually decided to release a sexy fighting game, SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but that's just part of its charm. I also want to thank NIS America for providing me with the PS4 version of the game. I thought it was very generous of them to accept my request. And I say PS4 because SNK Heroines exists on another platform as well, the Nintendo Switch. And just so you know, even though I'm someone who likes fighting games and even uses and has assembled arcade sticks, I'm really hopeless with these types of games. It takes a while for me not to be embarrassing at them. So keep in mind that this review is from someone who's a bit more of a casual player. We'll go over the basic gameplay, graphics, and so on and so forth. And of course, we're going to talk about the fan service antics of this game, which actually isn't as much as I thought it'd be. It's only rated T. So what is this game all about? It's a fighting game featuring an all-female cast. The game looks similar to KOF 14, and it does indeed look like the 3D models are from it as well. Gameplay takes place in a two-dimensional plane, so I guess you can think of it as a 2.5D game. Still comparing this to KOF, each character's moveset has been simplified. There's less moves and less buttons to press, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. After all, one of the most popular fighting game series in the world uses simple movesets and controls. You probably won't be pressing more than 2 buttons at a time. The story isn't really handled in a serious manner. It's just an excuse to have the girls dress up in all kinds of outfits. Basically, the baddie, whoever that is again, I forgot his name, transports all the girls into some sort of pocket dimension and gains power by feeding off the despair of the losing fighters or something. I don't really care too much. Anyway, back to the gameplay. There's a light and heavy attack button. There's also dedicated throw and special attack buttons as well. Guarding is done with L1, and R1 is used for your most powerful special attack, the Dream Finish. Instead of the usual team of 3, it's 2 fighters. It's called Tag Team Frenzy after all. You can switch between them at will by pressing R2. But the biggest difference between SNK Heroines and traditional fighting games is how you win. Depleting the opponent's life bar is not how you win, but it is part of the equation. When their life bar is low enough on this last notch here, you'll start hearing some bells go off in the distance, signaling that you can use a finisher to win the fight. Finishing moves are very powerful, but not undodgeable. If you completely deplete the life bar, the opponent becomes stunned for a little while, which provides a good opportunity. In turn, of course, this can happen to you and you can lose the fight. The less health a fighter has, the bigger this meter becomes. Forgot what it's called, but I just call it the sparkle meter. It's used for special attacks and finishers. You can still use special attacks if it's completely depleted, but they're just weaker. But finishers don't work if you don't have enough sparkle meter. Non-fighting characters have their meter regen faster, so you can strategically swap fighters to finish the match. I think it's a really fun concept. The visuals are interesting. They resemble KOF 14 quite a bit, but there seems to be something going on with the shaders. Everything looks a bit more vivid and even a bit cartoony. Not sure what to think of it, but I don't think it looks bad. I'm still not a fan of the faces though. Hi guys. The characters retain their overall look and fighting style, but the effects are changed to give everything a less serious and more playful appearance. I think that suits what the game is trying to do very well. It's kind of fun to see what sort of spin they decided to put on characters' trademark moves. There aren't that many stages and they all have a similar feel to them even though they are technically different looking. A bit more variety would be nice. I do like how the non-fighting characters in the background do stuff like wave and yell. Reminds me of the older KOF games which had a lot of background detail, more so than 13 or 14 had. It's just a fun little detail. The game runs at 60 frames per second, which is excellent news. I heard that's not the case on the Switch. For some reason the menus run at 30 FPS, not sure why, but it's really noticeable. KOF 14 did the same thing, so maybe it's just a quirk of that engine. Or maybe they use some sort of hardcore UI or something that causes lag, I don't know. The available game modes are what you'd expect from a fighting game. A story mode, tutorial, training, survival, as well as all kinds of online modes. I don't have PlayStation Plus, so I can't really comment on the netcode. Actually, yeah, it's my video, I can say what I want. I'm sure it's fine. I don't think SNK Heroines is particularly hard when you play against the computer. I didn't even need to lower the difficulty, unlike every other fighting game I play. Story mode is pretty short, but it makes playing through it with different characters less of a hassle, I suppose. And I like how each character has their own little end screen credits story. They're amusing to watch through. Everything you do, even the tutorial, gives you gold, which you can spend on a bunch of customization options like costumes, poses, voice sets, and all that sort of stuff. It's a good incentive to keep playing even if you're not going to make use of everything. I just enjoy unlocking everything. Since we're on the topic of customization, let's talk about the fan service. Some people like to spring to the conclusion that it's like Dead or Alive, but it really isn't. The tone is very different. SNK Heroines is much less blatant with its fan service, hence the T rating. It's more about having fun with the outfits. Some of the outfits are actually less skimpy than their originals, which is worth noting. And look, Sylvie actually looks relatively normal compared to her regular appearance. You are able to post characters in various outfits and take pictures of them if you want. Reminds me a little bit of Senran Kagura in that regard, but there isn't as much to customize. You can even be creative and change your in-game avatar. Perfect. And I even got a trophy for it. Speaking of trophies, they all look relatively achievable even for someone like me. I think a lot of people would be able to platinum it just by putting a little bit of work into it. Let me talk about arcade stick compatibility. SNK Heroines was designed to be used with a regular controller. There are items you can use throughout the match which can only be activated by flicking the right analog stick, which arcade sticks obviously don't have. You can turn items off in the settings if you want to use a stick. There will be a patch adding support for more arcade sticks, and it might be already out when you watch this video. Now the real question is if there will be a way to use items with an arcade stick. Maybe they'll patch that ability in. That would be nice. Just so you know, all the footage you see here is played with a regular controller. My only PS4 compatible arcade stick is missing a home button, so I can't even turn it on. That's my own stupidity though when I put it together. If you remember that build video, I ordered the wrong panels, so yeah. Oh well, it works with a PC, which is the most important thing to me. The game does work well with the controller though, and I still had a lot of fun playing it. I was a bit surprised. I thought it would be a bit frustrating to play, but since the moves don't require complicated inputs, I found it perfectly acceptable to use a controller. I think SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy is a very fun game with a lot of funny little details. In a way, this game can be thought of as a fan service episode or episode 7 of an anime, but as a game. It's fun, you don't have to take it so seriously, and that's what's great about spin-offs. It gives developers the opportunity to do something else and experience characters in a more casual way. And I'm also sure that there are some people who aren't into the sexy aspects of the game, but can still appreciate the pick up and play controls and gameplay. I personally think the fan service adds a bit of a comedic layer over everything and enhances the experience. There's an interesting style to the game that I like. You know, from the character illustrations where everyone, or mostly everyone, looks uncomfortable, to the totally overdone effects and graphics. It's a bit hard to explain, but I think they got it right with how the game is themed. But that's it for the video. Let me know in the comments what you think of this game if you've played it or have it. Remember to like the video if you did, subscribe for more videos, consider supporting the channel through Patreon. It helps tremendously, especially with game reviews, since I get games from developers only very rarely. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.